Hey, what's up YouTube? We're back with another video, and we're back to a format that I am super comfortable with, as if you've been on our channel for a bit, you notice we like tier lists. In this tier list though, we're going to be trying my best to balance both PvE and PvP at the exact same time. More or less, I feel like PvE is mostly like, hey, Hullcracker best, heavy ammo weapons, medium ammo weapons, light ammo weapons. It's pretty simplistic, but I also want to try and balance out, like, if you bring a light pen weapon, it won't perform very well against Arc, but it will perform very well against PvP, usually. Not always the case, but it can be. So starting off with it, I think it's just a really easy one to like classify as the Hullcracker. It's just so good against Arc that it goes into S tier. Now, obviously, you're not going to use this in PvP, and it does put you at a bit of a disadvantage as far as your PvP ability, but we're going to go into some other weapons later in the tier list that kind of stop you from needing a second weapon, that other weapons kind of do it all. And you could probably make some guesses even right now. Hullcracker is insanely good for taking on the Queen. Later tomorrow, the Matriarch, or when this video goes up, maybe it's already out. Just amazing for one-shotting normal Arc, taking care of Bombardiers extremely fast. Like, you can like one mag them if you get some weak spot shots. Very good against Queens, just so good. And honestly, it cuts down some of the worry of PvE. When you fight PvE, there's so much noise generated when you usually have to fight them. A Bastion just spamming his minigun for multiple minutes at a time, it's going to attract a lot of attention. But if you can kill a Bastion in less than 30 seconds, you're attracting way less attention on yourself, and the Hullcracker is great for that. Top tip, don't loot the body immediately. Wait, be patient. Let the body sit there for a bit. Let people arrive. You never know when the vultures will be circling around you. Next, going quite obviously with the Venator. I think the Venator is absolutely stupidly busted. It doesn't feel the best when you first pick up like a Venator 1 or 2. That's not to say it's a bad weapon. Even as a Venator 1 or 2, it still slaps. But the 22% fire rate per upgrade, eventually going up to 66% fire rate, is disgusting. If you guys don't know, it's a pistol, fires 2 rounds at the exact same time, basically on top of each other. If you hit some headshots, it's disgusting. So TTK chart is here, and one quick thing that we're gonna like just point towards is the Venator and how insane the Venator can kill in its optimal situations. This is medium shields. I know there's a lot of numbers on screen, but the big ones to look at is just the medium shield TTK for body shot and headshot. It ridiculously fast, and it's very easy to get those shots on target, especially when spam firing. You'll notice some weapons are possibly faster, but they're not going to be as easy to use at mid to longer ranges. And the Venator just excels in a mid-range situation. It absolutely slaps in close range, getting those headshots, dropping a person in 4 clicks to the head. And you can put those 4 clicks off very quickly. It's disgusting. Stupidly good weapon. Absolutely cooks. Absolutely cooks. Venator, I think, is absolutely S tier. Not bad at all for PvE. You can use it. I wouldn't really recommend it too much. Usually about 2 shots to like a quadcopter's engine, but extremely good. Highly recommend. The next S tier weapon that I'm going to talk about is going to be the Anvil. Anvil is more of like your early to mid game kind of weapon. You do eventually replace it, but I think it is absolutely cracked for both PvE and for PvP. There's a lot of times where I just took Venator Anvil, and Venator was my PvP close range weapon, and Anvil was my, oh no, there's a Hornet on me. Oh no, there's a spotter or a snitch. Just fantastic to just like 2 to 3 tap basically everything in the game. Very ammo efficient, doesn't burn through durability very fast, quite accurate if you're crouched especially. Doesn't really need attachments. Very cheap to make for the most part. BP is a little hard to get, but keep checking those weapon crates, you'll find them. But good weapon, fantastic. The thing that I eventually upgrade to is the Renegade. The Renegade may feel a little bit like the Venator, where the fire rate's a little slow and it feels a little inaccurate, especially if you have a Renegade 1 or 2. You get this thing up to Renegade 4. Oh, it slaps, especially if you start hitting headshots. You can destroy people. You might have seen the Shroud clip going around with him like Renegade 2-tapping each of the enemies in front of him. It can drop someone very fast. It's a little bit less damage than the Ferro per shot. It's 35 damage versus the 40, but you gain a significantly faster fire rate, and it kind of feels like a dueling weapon because the accuracy seat of the weapon stays pretty tight, even when strafing and standing. It doesn't require you to sit still and crouch, which is really nice, especially for these peak weapons at mid-range. So Venator will be my close range weapon. Renegade will be like my longer range weapon, and if that's the case. So Renegade, absolutely insane as well. You don't need to fully upgrade it. You know, I don't think it needs to be like the Venator, but it does feel really good in those more mid-range situations if you do upgrade it. Also, it's just not as expensive as those purple weapons that we're going to talk about later. Okay, so that's basically going to be where my S tier so far. I really like these weapons, and I think they are extremely meta dominant across like multiple like PvE and PvP. Next, going into the A tier, I think a lot of people will love the Stitcher for the early and even like mid to late game at times. It is a fantastic weapon for just like putting a kit together super cheap. Like, you don't really need to upgrade the Stitcher. Maybe put like a gray mag on it, because those extra 5 bullets do make a difference in like securing a kill. Make sure you're going for headshots. As always in ArcRaiders, the headshot multiplier at base is about 2, so like you should almost always go for headshots if you have the ability to. They make a big difference in a gunfight, and it can drop your TTK basically by half at least, usually. So yeah, highly recommend the Stitcher. You don't need to upgrade it. Usually if I'm gonna upgrade it, maybe I'll upgrade it to like 3, because it does decrease the horizontal recoil, so it'll make it a little more vertical, make it easier to recover. But basically, it's just super good. Wouldn't really use it in PvE at all, but it's just such a like a shit kit kind of weapon. Like Anvil Stitcher, amazing. Toro Stitcher, amazing. Ferro Stitcher, amazing. It's just the ultimate weapon for like battling someone in close range, and you just need something reliable. Works really well. Wouldn't use it outside of that close range combat, but really, really, really good and cheap to use. All right, next, Ferro. Ferro. Love this. Whenever you get a free kit and I get a Ferro, feels so good. You have so much ammo. The reload is actually really fast. You can upgrade it pretty cheap like the other gray weapons. Not all of them. We'll get to that in a little bit, but really good. Awesome PvE, great PvP. If you hit body shots, you're looking at a standard 4 on green shields. You hit headshots, you can double tap someone. Really good with headshots. Try and go for those headshots if you can. Wait for them to sit still, maybe going for a loot or like going for a res or something like that. Oh, snap them in the head. It's really good. I think it's pretty obvious Ferro gets up there. Even as like using it as like a shotgun, where you literally like body shot on purpose in close range, very strong at that. But when paired with the Stitcher, another A tier weapon, very good. Ferro into immediate Stitcher push. Oh my God, you will dominate in a lot of situations. Okay, next I want to talk about, let's go Il Toro. Il Toro, not always used that much, but I love seeing it used as more of a defensive weapon rather than offensive. And the reason why I say that is because the first couple levels of it, it's got a pretty slow fire rate, but you know, like a lot of the ones that gain fire rate over time, I believe it's 17.5% fire rate per, and I think it stops at 50% fire rate increase at tier 4. If you're just getting out of the lower tiers, you can absolutely hold a position. You kind of like hide behind a wall, third person peeking, wait for them to peek out or push you. You just slap them. 67 damage, I think it is, per individual like pump. You can easily 2-pump someone. If you get some pellets on the head, you can even drop them faster. Very good weapon for like putting down a rush. You can use it effectively in like an aggressive scenario, but it does feel awkward when you take a peek around a corner and you got to wait for that pump to come. It can leave you high and dry in that scenario. So I recommend a little bit slower gameplay style with it. It works really well. Okay, talk about another shotgun. I think the Vulcano is like about the same as the Il Toro. You just use it in a little bit different of a scenario. Like, I like the Vulcano, but it's like way more expensive to run than the Il Toro. And it does benefit from upgrades, 10% per level up, to, I think it's like a 40% total increase in fire rate, which is noticeable, and it does help the overall gun's performance. But whereas the El Toro is better for like the peak shooting, Vulcano is more for like full committing to a corner, laying down the hammer. But there has been so many scenarios that if you are not within like 2 shotgun lengths, like the length of the shotgun from the enemy, you're just gonna get lasered by a Venator or a Stitcher. Because as soon as the bloom increases to, you're gonna miss maybe half the pellets, you're gonna start losing some fights to other very good close range weapons. And you're not going to have the peak shooting ability of the El Toro to back you up in those scenarios. And it's kind of why I end up favoring the El Toro more, because it's cheaper to run. I think it works really well in sometimes of like an aggressive scenario or defensive. And just like the Vulcano, I don't know. Maybe it needs to be more accurate so it has a little more range, or just maybe the Venator needs to not be so dominant in close to medium range. Who knows? But yeah, Vulcano, I don't know, not fully in love with the weapon overall. Next, going into it, I want to say the Bobcat is like, it's like A- to B+. And the reason for that is because the Stitcher is just so good at what it does at being a gray weapon. The Bobcat does lose 1 damage per shot, but obviously gains a ton of fire rate in exchange. You don't have to upgrade it to 3 or 4, but it does make it more manageable at like medium range because shot dispersion goes down, max shot dispersion goes down, and it gains some like recoil reduction. With attachments, I think if you fully invest in the Bobcat, it's easily better than the Stitcher. But if you're just like finding the Bobcat out of like a security breach and you're finding a Stitcher, there are times where I'm like, I'd probably just use the Stitcher because like the shots to kill end up being a lot higher for the Bobcat. So you have to be more accurate and they have about the same magazine size. So it just feels very odd when you use the Bobcat. There's no doubt the Bobcat has a faster TTK, but the Stitcher is easier to use. So it's a weird one where I might end up putting the Bobcat in B+. I might do that, but I think we're going to keep it in A for now. I will continue to say that purple weapons are very expensive, at least in this part of the game. We're only 2 weeks into the game, so obviously things will change over time, especially with Stella Montes coming out tomorrow. Maybe Bobcat and Vulcano become a lot easier to run when, you know, we're just flush in upgrade materials and stuff like that. Who knows? But as it is right now, Stitcher, very, like, arguably better than the Bobcat in some scenarios. Okay, Tempest and Bettina, I love the idea of them, but I think they're just going to be dropped down to like B and C tier. I'm going to kind of lump them together because they're more or less the same kind of AR, but I got to say the Bettina absolutely needs like fire rate mods or like to be upgraded, and you have to nail headshots to like feel the power behind it, and that doesn't always feel good. The Tempest is easier because you don't need to upgrade it. It only really gains durability, reload speed, and some horizontal recoil control, but the Tempest at level 1 can feel quite nice. It can. The Tempest can feel quite nice even at level 1. To level 4, it's not jostling around so much, but you can put on mods that prevent that and just burst fire more. So I find the Tempest to just be easier to run. It's not as expensive and tends to just be the better one than Bettina. Bettina goes through durability so fast. I was like in shock when I ran it. Even at 4 with the fire rate mod, it didn't feel particularly great in PvP. Like it felt okay. I know there's some believers of it, but I think you are definitely better off using other PvP weapons for the mid-range or the close range, or just going with more of a shit kit idea and like using a Stitcher for those like close to medium ranges. I don't know. The Bettina has been a disappointing weapon overall. I'd love to see it like at least get like a durability rate, like just not burn as fast. I think that would help it at minimum, and at least it would be closer to the Tempest in my eyes. But yeah, hard to use, a hard one to love. Okay, next, a little bit of controversial one, the Kettle. I love getting the Kettle as my free loadout. It is actually insane if you have a fast trigger finger. It is eventually going to be fire rate limited, you know, if you're like a macro enjoyer and you love using auto clickers and stuff like that. But if you just have naturally a fast trigger finger, this gun is actually extremely good in close to medium range. It does not require much to upgrade, and when you upgrade it, its shortcomings of like slow bullet velocity, long reload become not a big deal. It gains a lot of attachment slots that you can just slot in even just your gray. It actually becomes a really good contender into the mid game even. So once again, if you're not like a Ferro enjoyer, but like you love the Stitcher, the Kettle might be the perfect weapon for you at that early game stage, even touching into the mid game. I do think it steps on the toes a little bit of the Stitcher at times, and you may feel like, oh, I'm just going to invest in the Anvil as my mid to long range, and it's got better PvE, and then I have the Stitcher for close range. Totally fair, but man, the Kettle can feel like the perfect like solo weapon to bring in, and it's not that bad against PvE because it's obviously fairly accurate. And if you're getting good at shooting the rotors on Hornets, like make sure if you got a Hornet in front of you, don't shoot the armored bits on the front. Crouch, and there's a very easy way to get underneath to shoot those like bottom parts. It can be a bit awkward if obviously you're on a hill and you're trying to shoot downhill. You get weird, but try and shoot the engines on the back with the Hornet. Crouch makes a big difference. You get the perfect angle for it. Yeah, give the Kettle a try if you're in the early mid game. It'll surprise you. It really will if you got that fast trigger finger. If you don't, ignore this placement. It's probably a B to C tier weapon if you have a slow trigger finger. Just gonna say that. Okay, Rattler. I want to love the Rattler so much, but it feels terrible at level 0. You literally can't even kill a green shielded raider at level 0 with body shots. You have to hit headshots in order to kill one in green shield. So it immediately needs to be upgraded, but there's a problem. From upgrade 1 to 2, it's a little bit more expensive than the average gray weapon that we've been talking about, requiring more metal parts and stuff like that. Not too big of a deal. But for some reason, from 2 to 3, it all of a sudden needs, I think it's 3 mechanical parts and like 2 to 3 simple gun parts for no reason. Most guns in the gray tier require that from 3 to 4. They start requiring mechanical and simple gun parts. For some reason, the Rattler immediately requires it, and then it requires the same amount to go from 3 to 4. It's so expensive for a gray weapon. It makes no sense. I think they made a mistake for 2 to 3. I don't think the weapon would be as low on my tier list. I'm gonna put it in C tier, by the way. I don't think it would be nearly as low if it was cheaper to upgrade, because once you start to get to the 18 to 24 rounds, 22 rounds in the magazine, because it goes from 10, 14, 18, 22, it feels a lot better and feels way more of like that early to mid game gun, like your reliable AR. But man, it feels really bad when you don't upgrade it. Luckily, when you start the game gives you a bunch of like tier 3 Rattlers, but honestly, dismantling them from the components might actually be more worth it to you. Who knows? Not a fan of the Rattler, honestly. At least the Tempest feels like a better Rattler later on, but the Tempest has its own issues of keeping up with the S and A tier weapons. Okay, next, the Arpeggio, or as my friend likes to call it, the Asparagus. Fun weapon. Doesn't feel great when you get like a level 1 to 2. It can feel like the TTK is just like snail slow, but when you get to 3 to 4, the fire rate increases quite a bit. It starts getting easier to land those headshot bursts, because if it kind of feels like a lot of other shooters where because of the burst fire, it means that you're most likely going to be more accurate with it. So landing those, double damage headshots, because once again, headshots, huge deal on all weapon classes in this game. It can make a huge difference. So Arpeggio feels better later on. It's kind of like the opposite of the Tempest, where the Tempest doesn't really feel like it needs to be upgraded to feel good, but the Arpeggio needs to be upgraded to feel good. It's kind of unfortunate, but decent like mid-range brawler, but part of me wants to put it like towards like the A- tier at times, but I'll be honest, you fully kit out a Kettle and fully kit out an Arpeggio, I might just take the Kettle overall. It's cheaper to run. It can do wonders with a fast trigger finger. It kind of slaps. It really does. Burletta, it's a weapon that you can pick up and just use. I definitely would recommend a magazine on it. It doesn't need to be upgraded, really. It doesn't really gain much other than like durability, reload time. So it's durability and reload time, and it's just like, just put a magazine on this thing, and it's all right. Like, I've seen people do some decent work with it. It can feel like, I guess, like a baby Venator because of its damage profile, and like if you have a relatively fast trigger finger, it's got a decent fire rate. I would not use it really over Kettle personally. I would rather use the Kettle, I think, in most situations than the Burletta, just because of like the sheer fire rate that you can get out of the Kettle at like max fire rate. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad weapon at all. I wouldn't upgrade it, but if you find it in the weapon case, it could be a good, secondary to your Ferro, hot swapping between the two. It won't compete with the Stitcher or the Kettle overall, I think, but it's solid. I don't think anything in the B tier is bad, but yeah, it is lacking compared to its higher brothers and sisters. Next, we have the Osprey. The Osprey, I've been debating in my head a decent amount. I want to put it in A tier, but it can be difficult to use in the current demographic of the game. I find a lot of encounters are happening quite close together, and it can feel hard to use in those like encounters. And especially now that people are using more like grenades and stuff like that, you have to really commit to a peek because it's first person, because you can't really fire it in third person like a Renegade peek shooting. It's hard for the Osprey to exist. You can exploit certain angles at times. I've had some really good shots, like if the control tower stairs up, you can actually look down the stairs and have like a perfect peek through one of the doorways in the main like way up, and you get some nasty headshots on people peeking up on those stairs. But it's hard to do. It's really hard to do because you have to commit to an angle. At nighttime maps, I think you can do that easier because people might not see you peek. And even at range, it is the long range weapon, but dude, I was shooting at a guy about 200 meters from me. I think it was around 200 or so. And the damage report afterwards, it was 27 damage to shield, 15 damage to main health. And these are body shots. Obviously, if you can hit headshots, you'll be doubling that. You're hitting like 56 damage to shield and 31 damage to the body. But that's obviously not that much damage for the long range ranged weapon. It's obviously pretty easy to plink at people, and you can be like an absolute shit disturber, and you can break shields pretty fast. Obviously, like a green shield can be broken relatively quickly if you're closer to that 200 meters, but it, like other weapons, suffers from long range fall off. And the Osprey is victim to that as well, even though maybe it shouldn't. So I would honestly more use it within 200 meters to like the optimal range of about 100. I do think you can like start messing with people that are renegades. You can hold pretty easy peaks. If you're good at hitting headshots, it can do a lot of damage. But yeah, it's a first person gun in a third person game, so it falls off pretty hard in close range. Like there are some situations where like I've shot toes, I've shot elbows and arms peeking around a corner because the enemy I was shooting at didn't realize they were just barely pixel peeking too much, and I wouldn't have been able to get that shot with an Anvil or Renegade because I don't have enough zoom. So there is that. So I still think it's a good weapon, but the Osprey is awkward to use in some maps. It will shine brighter on like a spaceport or a blue gate up top, but it will suffer more on like on a buried city or a Stella Montes when we get it, for instance. Torrente, honestly, really tough one to pick as well, because I'm sure you've seen the clips of someone getting behind a team with a 90 round magazine because they fully upgraded it. They have all the mods and they just lay in and kill 3 people. That can absolutely happen with the Torrente, but that won't always be the case. There's going to be a lot of situations where you're going to be face to face with a Bobcat, a Stitcher, or a Venator, and you're honestly going to lose a lot of them if they're even slightly too far away. Because the Torrente, if you're not crouched and have a good amount of mods on it, the accuracy blooms so crazy if you're walking or like trying to slide with it, or if you're standing with it. It shrinks a ton when you are crouching with it, and you can honestly like try burst firing with it, but obviously you're going to lose a lot of your TTK time doing that. So if you can surprise a team, it's awesome to just surprise them and be able to like 1 meg everything, but it does not feel great when you're in that brawling situation of like trading hits. You're gonna not feel great. You're gonna lose to Vulcanos. You're gonna lose to El Toro peak shooting you. You're gonna lose to the occasional Stitcher because the Stitcher is more accurate. You can go for headshots easier with it. So I have a love-hate relationship with the Torrente, as you can see. I do think it's somewhere between the A and B tier. I think for the right player, the flanker, the player that is hyper aggressive, it could be really good if you catch a team off and surprise them. It's honestly like somewhere in the A tier. But if you're more just using it like any other regular weapon, I think it drops down to like a high B plus in most scenarios. It's just difficult to use at mid-range. It's not very accurate. Trading blows with even a Kettle will be a bit awkward at times at mid-range because they're just gonna have accuracy on you, especially if they're fast trigger finger. So tough one to plink, but I think I'm gonna put it there. As for the Hairpin, obviously D tier. It can be a weapon you bring in your sidearm just to like pops or pop fireballs. Remember, wait for the fireball shield to come down on its face, like the white part to show, shoot it then. It'll be a lot easier. Then when you kill it, roll away. It won't light you on fire. Highly recommend. Top tip. But yeah, D tier right there. I've seen other people's tier lists for the Jupiter and Equalizer. I don't think the Jupiter is a D tier. I think it's honestly closer to like a B minus for a PvP perspective and a PvE perspective. And then with the latest video we put out, queen parts are everywhere. It's not as hard as it once was to run the Jupiter. I think I'm gonna put it low B because obviously it shreds in PvE, but honestly, it's actually quite nice in a poke battle in PvP because it ends up kind of feeling like a better Osprey because you can break shields, blue shields in one-shot body shots. To the head, I believe it'll leave them at like 0 HP. It reminds me of the Hunt weapon where like it did like 99 damage and left him at 1 HP. I think it'll most likely leave blue shield to the head in similar situations where they're basically one shot. It can be a bit awkward to use with the charge up, but in a peak battle, this could be the weapon that gets you that peak into a rush. If you break someone's shield with this, that is an awesome advantage to just rush them down because you're going to break their shield and do about 37 damage to them. And yeah, it'll feel pretty good in that situation. The Equalizer, on the other hand, I have tried it in PvP. I killed a guy and tried to PvP some guys. It's terrible. just don't use it. I'm going to at least put it in C tier because it can do some decent damage to like queens and stuff like that, but it's nowhere near as good as the Hullcracker because with the Hullcracker, you can peak PvE is like way better than just sitting there sustained fire. Trading hits with PvE will never work out for you. And the Equalizer doesn't do enough damage. It feels disappointing even PvE damage wise to like kill a Hornet at times. At least it's fairly ammo efficient for like how good it is versus PvE. And it doesn't break that fast, but like I can't see myself wanting to bring this other than for like a queen or matriarch kill maybe in the future. I would rather take a Hullcracker like every time. Even though the Hullcracker can't be used in PvP, I don't even want to use the Equalizer in PvP. I don't think it does nearly enough damage. It honestly should do more damage to Raiders and Arcs, honestly. It's just such a risky weapon to use and it doesn't feel like it has a payoff. All right, let's look through this tier list real quick. I feel very confident in all my S tier picks. My A's and B's, I do think depending on play style, you might want to place them differently. Obviously like trigger finger wise for the Kettle. What's your economy wise going? Like, do you just have tons of parts going around? Bobcat will probably be a better version of the Stitcher. Toro versus Vulcan. If Volcano, if you just have so many gun parts you don't know what to do with them and all your Volcanos are tier 4, yeah, obviously I think it'll be better than the Toro, but from an economy standpoint, the Toro can do so much while being just so much cheaper. I would love to see some benefit to the Tempest in the future. I want to use it more. The Osprey should honestly have less damage fall off, but maybe that might create a scenario where there's too many people that are the C word, you know, sitting on building tops, just shooting people's shields all day. Maybe that would be too toxic if they give it too much damage over time or over distance. That could be a big bad thing to add to a game if you just have like that happening. Arpeggio, I could see people arguing with me about it being higher, but I think compared to like the higher tiers here, it's a lot of investment for it to feel good. And a lot of these weapons don't need as much of an investment, like not nearly as much to feel better in a lot of situations. Like in a peak battle, I'd much rather have an Anvil, or I'd much rather have a Kettle at like level 3 than an Arpeggio at times. You know, Stitcher up close, Ferro at longer ranges, Toro at that close to medium range. Like the Arpeggio just feels a bit awkward until you get to like higher tiers. Not always the biggest fan. I might be too mean to the Bettina, but I don't know, man. I don't love it. I genuinely think you are better off using a lot of the weapons above over a Bettina, especially for how accurate it was. Like if they could make the Bettina like a blue weapon all of a sudden and make it like a lot less rare, decrease the durability burn rates, and maybe up the fire rate per upgrade, maybe? And then all of a sudden it's like an A tier easily. But in its current context, I just don't like having them. I have so many in my inventory because I'm just hoping that they're going to buff it or give it some love. It doesn't matter how many times I bring it. It only feels good when you get headshots. But that's like basically every weapon on this tier list. Anyways, that's my tier list. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. I would love to have a conversation. Feel free to come by the streams, Poula_TV, both on Twitch or on YouTube. Remember, I don't stream on this video channel. I stream on a separate channel to separate the two. It just goes better that way for the videos and their exposure. But yeah, feel free to let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and check out the merch down below if you guys are interested. Much love, YouTube. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the streams. Peace.